All right, happy Friday, everybody. I hope you're ready for the weekend. I'm assuming with absolute confidence that we have all earned it. We all deserve our enjoyable weekend, whether you're planning on partying, that's basically for my TikTok followers, and everybody else who actually pays bills and lives life adulting, where you're just trying to chill and maybe save some money, for like vacation or real shit. So here I be, and I was going to make a second video to share on my media platforms today, where I was going to dress up instead of down, and I will kind of do that. I will, of course, talk about, what I've been talking about the last 3 days. I really want to push that. But first and foremost, since I put this down and pick this up, why am I holding a camouflage beanie, especially on a day where it's in the 90s? Total chill mode here. Why am I in total chill mode with a camouflage beanie? Well, got military stuff that I want to talk about. Something vintage and authentic, US Navy, like myself, retired. And you've seen me wear stuff like this before frequently, especially seasonally, not on a day like today. But this is for sale. This is one of the, I don't want to say grail pieces, but it is a primary piece in my collection. And I was going to wear camouflage hat, the CW military jacket, cold weather utility jacket, and camo pants. And then I realized denim was probably better for a balance. I didn't need all that. Just that was extra, too much, out of control, more than necessary. So here is my look for this secondary video as I try to adjust it, because when I step, it's very flattering when I'm close at a certain angle, and then when I step back, it is not flat. Let me have this be popped. Although that did kind of look fresh, right? Now, everybody remembers when these were trending pretty hard about 15 years ago. Was that 2012, 13, 14? And same contractor. It's just that when the military buys them, they don't say what they say when the civilians buy them, but it's the same company. They're kind of, I don't want to say forbidden, but the civilian version doesn't have all the military requirements because all of this stuff, this is military surplus, and it isn't fashion. It can have a second life after its military service as fashion, but its purpose is utilitarian. So here's the fit. Actually, to do this correctly, because my fit videos are very verbose around this area, which I don't know why. There we go. That is more flattering from that low angle. I didn't realize that. And I need to smile more, because I tend to use the images to create stills for different purposes. So this is, this is kind of flattering. Okay. And then the profile, which I check while I'm doing it, because the profile is not always flattering, especially with my body type. But this works out well, and I need to smile. All right, so rating the fit and showing you actually what this is. This is a military issue nylon Nomex, among other things, jacket that is issued to all air crew. That means pilots, officers that fly, medical flight officers, backseaters, navigators, all those, and enlisted air crew. In fact, this, which we call this leather piece of with the name tag, we actually use the word name tape. Anyway, it still has, if you look closely, the US Navy enlisted guy's name on it. He was an enlisted flyer, and this was his jacket. Somehow it ended up in the wild, which happens frequently depending on often marital status. Just in keeping it real. And so this shirt, and I'll talk about this shirt and more specifically in another video. It is a loop wheel shirt, so it is heavier yet lighter, and completely different construction. Not completely different. It's a different style of constructing a t-shirt than what is normally done. I had two, a white one and a black one, and White just isn't really my thing as far as t-shirts are concerned. I don't know, I'll try it again maybe. And then of course, these jeans, which are out of control. Oh, darn it, I hate it when Ralph Lauren, look at boots, Ranger boots, belted. And these jeans, of course, are Selvage. Before I modified them and really distressed them. So that is my fit, my look, my vibe, my energy, my expression, my artistic desires today. And I will back up because I know you don't want to see all this in your face. But what are these jeans? Of course, they're Brave Stars. Go all out, go big or go home. That's what I do to my Brave Stars. I always make them my own. By hook or by crook, on purpose or whatever. And so I'm digging this. I'm going to step back one more time. Because this is a very cool look. And of course I need to give myself 10 seconds. If I stand here for 10 seconds, it's boring as hell. But when I'm looking for a still, it goes by instantly. As I'm trying to say. That's probably better. All right, okay. So why am I making this video? As I said, this jacket, like a lot of my other stuff, is for sale. And it is for sale on eBay. I don't know yet if I'm going to put it on my own blog for sale. I'll just make a blog about it. This will be a complete blog that I put. And this will be the second of today where I'm making a long, verbose, happy video. And for the most part, what you see with these videos today that I will share on my platforms will be about the same that I'll share on the blog. The blog may have a little bit more stills, a little bit more background information on what this stuff means. Yeah, but this is super cool and super authentic. One of the things that I had tried to talk about in a previous attempt at making this video is that, you know, you can tell it's authentic by its construction methods. They're very modern, and like the leather ones, you can date them by the details. And like I said, it's actually got a military name tag on here that is required to be Velcro, so it can come off in case something goes down, shit goes down, and you're on the wrong side of the map. You can just tear that up and not have, so that they can't identify you, but you still have the jacket itself for warmth. An older generation of this that the Air Force issued that you frequently see is the one with the orange interior. Again, not a style choice. Military stuff is not made for fashion or style. Military stuff is completely utilitarian. I'm silly here. And you'd wear the green one when you were what we're calling E&E, escape and evasion. So if your plane went down, you're behind enemy lines, you're escaping and evading. You're hiding. That's the green. That's what the military is famous for, the camouflage. You're assuming you're in the woods or, you know, the jungle. And if you're in the desert, then all this stuff is desert tan. See how connecting the dots for you civilians, and you're like, you know, you just thought those colors were about fashion. And anyway, before you were about to be rescued by your rapid response force, security force, you would turn the jacket inside out so you could be seen either through the bush or even in the water or what have you. And then of course that went away, but that was like from the 50s on to maybe the 70s or whatever. And each iteration of this, just like the flight jackets, the leather flight jackets, there's modifications and there's changes and whatnot. And a variation of this is still issued. I've got a variation that I have patched up with my stuff and still rock. And whereas the Air Force has abandoned their leather jacket, the A2, the Navy still issues their G1 flight jacket, although it's very different from what the tradition is. And, you know, and as I discussed in my earlier video, these have, now bear with me, this is for sale. I've discussed it. These go through a lot of wear and tear because they are military surplus garments. And so you can see that the zipper, this area where the zipper, there's a hole here in the area that leads to this inner knitting, and that is required to hold this part of the frame of the zipper pull in place, meaning that the zipper, which does work, but when you try to use it, it's difficult to get it in long enough and get enough to, okay, now I got 10 minutes into a damn video about this jacket, which is for sale, and I got to the point where I needed to talk about the damn zipper and its separation, and it's a military garment. It's fine. As you can see, this still zips up. Do you need that repaired? Yes. But as you can see, and what happened was is that I couldn't get quite enough torque while I was talking about the history of the jackets and some other incidents that have happened with people online today concerning military jackets. And I'm doing this number, and it got to the point where it looked silly, and I had to scrap the whole video because I'm doing all this crap in one take. It's live. It's live. You're worth it. It's live. So when things F up, someone knocks at the door, the mailman, or they get a phone, whatever it is, I got to either roll with it and explain it to you, and or just whatever it is. And sometimes I just lose it. And but anyway, so yes, it does zip, as you can see, and I don't know how much more that would come out, because this whole thing would have to be. Actually, all you have to do is resew this part of the sort of the lower frame, and then resew that. Probably a seamstress could probably take care of it in about 15 minutes. But I'm not going to do it. I'm going to sell it. The civilian version of this, because this is all Alpha Industries. It doesn't say Alpha Industries because the military doesn't care who made it. They want you to fulfill the contract. So with a military one, it just has a military contract number and a general sizing, an extra 44 through 43. Military is very different in garment construction. It's all about utilitarianism. Alpha Industries then, of course, makes a civilian version of it, and I've talked about how I'm so agitated with the civilian version of it, because here on the civilian versions, where you have this utility pocket, okay, which is supposed to, it has a military function for your air crew, and an air crew is not just a pilot or a navigator, but the enlisted people. Like I said, this is an enlisted, it's this Navy petty officer here. The civilian version has this banner, a safety banner, which is what we use for aircraft that are kind of being stored. You chalk and chain the planes down to the flight deck or flight line or whatever, and you put these safety banners: do not open, do not this, do not that. And the Alpha Industries put that stuff on there, authentic Alpha Industries. And I guess to people that have never served, it's something else that looks cool and authentic and everything. And to me, it just kind of, you become the grandpa, that military veteran that's kind of irritated by everything. And speaking of irritated by everything, and I'm going to bring this up for giggles because it's hilarious. This is the leather version, and it's older, and of course this goes back to World War II. There are different iterations of this. This is actually with this shape of the collar, I think M442. Every 10 years, these are altered, changed, updated, and same thing with the traditional leather jacket, but these are known by the designator G1, and it has a specific group of features, again, that changed slightly through the generation, but the primary thing is this collar and this back, as you've heard me say before. It's called the bi-swing back. It allows the back panel to be separated from the structure of the shoulder, so if you are ditched in the water and have to swim, you can swim easier without the jacket pulling at you, because the shoulder is separated from the back by swing back. It's another aspect of utilitarianism of the garment. This is a military garment. It's a piece of military survival equipment, not something to make you feel cool like a gatekeeper. And that is what got into it with a nice group of thrifters who have a thrifting, not a YouTube, a thrifting thing on Instagram. And they identified a civilian jacket as a Top Gun jacket because that helps them sell it. It's just give you more information. And I'm like, oh, it's a beautiful jacket. It's really nice. It's not necessarily a U.S. Navy G1 jacket. It's very nice. And I listed these features, but it didn't have this, didn't have the bi-swing. It didn't have anything. It was just a civilian, more like an A2. It was just a civilian standard leather jacket that looked the part. I point this out, and everybody's cool, everybody's happy. I'm like, okay, it's still very nice, it's still worth whatever, and you can get, and it's lovely, and have a nice day. I shit you not, 12 hours later or whatever, some rando, not even an American, no one who served or associated with I'm retired Navy, some rando jackassery. So a guy attempting to gatekeep, because people want these prices to be exorbitant, and they are rare, sort of. they're not really rare. The Navy still issues these. If you join the U.S. Navy and get qualified in aviation, they will give you one of these. So they're not that rare. You just have to freaking serve and shut your mouth if you didn't. That's the real problem. They're not everything needs to be a damn commodity. But anyway, this guy was like, oh no, it actually is a G1 because it's the fur collar has been removed and done this and all this other stuff. Like, nobody does that. And it's certainly not issued like that. This is a standard thing going back to the 40s. And we just sort of went back. It got catty, and sometimes I just need people who aren't experts, but they want to gatekeep so that they can close the gate and keep what's inside the gate under their control and valuable. And sometimes I just need you people to speak, you know. So that's my Unleash story for today. So buy this. Anyway, I tell this. This is super cool. And it's authentic. And the zipper does work, even though it didn't want to work the whole video. 9 minutes into the other video, and I had to scrap it. But as you can see, and of course it's going to be dirty. It's going to have aviation grease and all that stuff, because a lot of the job of flying, the job of being on an air crew for like a helicopter or a cargo plane, C-130 or whatever, is that it's a lot of maintenance. The aircraft are all, even low maintenance aircraft are high maintenance by the standards that most of you civilians do. Like for your car, you complain about every 3 months having to take your oil to get changed. Imagine having to do that after every use, and then 10 hours more of that type of thing. And a lot of enlisted air crew is kind of that, unless you get a technical job, which some do. But yeah, this is the real deal, and it's cool. Another 16+ minute video. I hope you contact me if you're interested in it, because I'd love it to go to you, because it has stories. Like I said, you can't see it, well, you can barely see some numbering there. It's the real deal, and you can see how just wearing the damn thing has inspired me to speak non-stop for almost 20 minutes. That's the great thing about surplus military stuff. It's almost like traveling. First it makes you speechless, and then it makes you a storyteller the rest of your life.